Okay, it's time to talk about the Motocoaster. I've been a little bit silent over the last couple of months, but obviously at the end of January 2026, Dreamworld permanently closed the Motocoaster. I actually did get a chance to go up there and ride it one last time. Had a great time, not on Motocoaster, just at the park in general. But I want to talk a little bit about what I think is gonna happen next, because in the 2 months since Motocoaster gave its final rides, there's been some interesting things that have happened. So I'm just making a quick video to talk about it. What do I think is coming next? What are my predictions on what will replace the Motocoaster? And where is Dreamworld going from here? But first, a little bit of context for those who don't know. Motocoaster was the prototype Intamin family straddle launch coaster, and it opened at Dreamworld in 2007. Dreamworld really wanted to do something quite innovative with this ride at the time. They had Australian motorcycle champion Mick Doohan associated with the project and with the development of the ride. And ultimately what they tried to accomplish is an authentic motorcycle riding experience within a coaster. And to do that, Intamin essentially reimagined their seat and restraint system to try and create something that would be quite authentic to a motorcycle riding position. The result was famously divisive. Motocoaster was fairly popular with the GP, but the problem largely was that those restraints just caused too many problems. They weren't very accommodating for people who, not even necessarily in terms of size or weight, it was even just if you're not flexible enough, if you have particularly long legs, if you just find the position uncomfortable, it could be a really demanding roller coaster to ride. But also just the level of confusion caused by these quite unique restraints and operators having to essentially teach people how to sit correctly. And then also they had technical issues where sometimes the back pads would not automatically go down. There was just so much troubleshooting to be done that the ride just became a maintenance headache and operationally probably one of the worst coasters in the country, regularly long cycle times. So I made no secret of the fact that I did not like Motocoaster at all. I found it incredibly uncomfortable. I found it was incredibly boring, even if you could ignore the discomfort, and just operationally, it's a nightmare. So Motocoaster closed just short of 20 years at the park. This comes after a string of other ride closures and replacements that have happened over the course of the 2020s at Dreamworld. And one piece of context that I think is really important is Dreamworld's most recent project. They closed their Intamin gyro swing, the Claw, which had opened in 2004, and replaced it with a larger and more modern Intamin gyro swing, King Claw, which I got to ride on my visit as well, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So when Motocoaster initially closed, my initial reaction was that this was a fantastic opportunity. First of all, I hate the Motocoaster, so get it gone. Good riddance. Don't want to see you again. But also, Dreamworld has a few gaps in its lineup and has done pretty much since the turn of the 2020s and the post Thunder River Rapids accident kind of era, where there was all of these different closures of a lot of the classic rides at the park. And Motocoaster's land is quite large. This is a ride that takes up a significant amount of real estate in a central location in the park. So the opportunities really were quite exciting in my point of view. One possibility, a water ride. I feel like a flume or another sort of water ride would go really well with the Rivertown precinct, right adjacent to the Murrissippi River. You've got plenty of room in Motocoaster's footprint to pull off quite a decent flume, maybe even extending out towards the former Rocky Hollow area. So that was one option that I thought could potentially happen. A dark ride or some sort of show. If Dreamworld were willing to put the money into the infrastructure of having a building erected on the site, then a dark ride is another thing that I feel they're missing that they could do really well. And I also feel like just a show, a performance, kind of in the same vein as what Movie World has with Spy Chase, that will draw in big crowds during its show times. They're really, really valuable things to have, and I don't think Dreamworld has any of its shows that kind of universally appeal to every single aspect of the audience that's going to be there. You know, you've got your animal feeding shows, you've got your character meet and greets that are going to get the kids kind of excited, but they don't really have that big people eater that's going to get like 1,000 people into the stands and out of the ride queues all at once. So I thought that would be a really valuable option too. And Rivertown gives them plenty of opportunities to do something fun in the style of maybe like Indiana Jones at the Disney parks. But actually, what I initially thought was going to happen was none of the above. What I thought was going to replace Motocoaster was nothing. Nothing at all. I should, I guess, clarify what I mean there. I didn't think that there was going to be a ride or attraction that would directly replace Motocoaster. Like I said, this is a big bit of land, and it's very central to the park. It's got riverfront onto the Murrissippi River. It's adjacent to Rivertown, also connecting out towards the Giant Drop and what used to be Rocky Hollow. This is a really useful piece of land for Dreamworld to suddenly have available to them. And what I thought they might do is try to use that land to kind of fix some of the dead ends and the bottlenecks and just some of the mess that has become of the park's layout, particularly over in that corner over the course of a few decades. You know, rides have come and gone, and they've had to build bridges over railway tracks and all sorts of things. The area around the base of the Giant Drop has been a mess for a long, long time. And I really thought that potentially Motocoaster's removal could open up more of a riverfront promenade. They could put some stores and facilities, toilets, all that sort of thing along the front of the Murrissippi River. Really open up more of the riverfront, create more of a precinct out of it, and then use it to just adjust things, beautify a little bit, fix up the pathways, make that whole area just a little bit more coherent and make it make sense. Maybe there would have still been room for a flat ride or something among all that, but really what I thought was going to happen initially is that Motocoaster would go and there would be nothing directly replacing it. They'd simply try to beautify and open up for future potential for perhaps a redevelopment of Rocky Hollow, a redevelopment of Koala Country or Gumtree Gully or something like that. Potentially a new Captain Sturt paddle wheeler style attraction utilizing the Murrissippi River. However, things have really changed in the last couple of months since Motocoaster finally closed. And there's a couple of things that have really caught the attention of the enthusiast community. The first thing that has happened, or actually rather not happened, that has really changed my opinion on what's happening here is that there has been no demolition work, essentially no demolition work on Motocoaster whatsoever. The track is still standing. I believe the train is actually still in the maintenance bay. Everything's still there. And if the ride was being demolished, even if there was no replacement coming for potentially months or even a year or more, I would think that they would still be starting to get rid of some of the, get some of those more basic works out of the way. Electrical stuff being removed, the trains being shipped off or scrapped or whatever was going to happen to them. Maybe the track would still be standing for a little while, but you should start to see things happening and things being removed if the ride is going to be demolished. Dreamworld do have an unfortunate history of leaving rides standing but not operating. I mean, there's still some there. If you've got a keen eye, you'll know that Blue Lagoon is still there. They had a long period of time where the towers for their Skylink chairlift were still there. Eureka Mountain Mine Ride being probably the most famous example. They did have a habit of leaving rides abandoned, and I know that got them a lot of negative feedback. A lot of people really considered that to be something that was quite an eyesore and something that was a negative reflection on the park, aesthetically speaking. So I don't think they would want to do that. I don't think they would want to leave Motocoaster standing there abandoned for any longer than necessary, which means a couple of things to me. Firstly, I think that if Motocoaster was still in operating condition and they were planning to demolish it, but not until, say, September, then they would have kept it operating until September. And by the same token, if they were planning to get rid of it and they were closing it now, they would have started demolishing it now. No one wants an abandoned attraction sitting smack bang in the middle of the theme park, and Motocoaster really is smack bang in the middle of the theme park. So The longer it went where Motocoaster was not getting demolished, nothing was happening, no removal works, the longer I started to think, they're not getting rid of it. They're not removing it. It's staying. And I believe that is all but confirmed thanks to one of Dreamworld's latest Instagram reels. In this reel, we're in Greg Yong, the CEO's office. We get this nice little over-the-shoulder shot, and we see on Greg's screen, just enough to give us a little Easter egg, what appears to be a concept artwork for a revival or reimagining of Motocoaster's station. You can see here on the left and the right, I'll put it up on the green screen, I don't know what I'm doing. On the left, you've got an obvious photo of Motocoaster's queue, and on the right, what appears to be a rendering of the Motocoaster's queue with a completely different theme, something that does seem to fit in perhaps with Rivertown. Now, a couple of things about this. Firstly, what this doesn't confirm is that Motocoaster itself is staying. We can't actually see any of the ride in this rendering. We can only see the station. So I still think there's quite a possibility that Motocoaster's queue and station are being kept and revitalized and repurposed for a different attraction. So potentially the ride itself will still be removed. But I'm starting to be of the opinion that this is going to be a full refurbishment and reimagining of the Motocoaster. So a couple of things here. First of all, I think Dreamworld know that just repainting or retheming Motocoaster and reopening it as part of Rivertown is not going to go down well with the public. I don't think they're that silly. Now, Motocoaster was not unpopular with everyone. It was hated by some, myself included, but loved by others. And I definitely think there would be people who would be happy to see Motocoaster live on in another sort of iteration. But I think even Dreamworld would acknowledge there are operational issues, there are maintenance issues, there are problems with this ride that need to be addressed if it's going to stick around for another 10 or 20 years at the park. So they're not just going to repaint it. They're not just going to retheme it. I think first and foremost, they are definitely getting rid of the trains. Please, oh God, if they're not getting rid of the trains, I'm gonna cry. The trains are the root cause of 90% of Motocoaster's problems. It has some other problems. The layout's a bit meandery, doesn't really do a whole lot. It's a bit too, high off the ground and swoopy and doesn't really offer any kind of force, but that's just a mediocrity problem. The problems that made it actually, uncomfortable for riders, poor operationally, slow queues, all that sort of stuff, 90% of those problems came from those restraints. Just those restraints caused the ride so many headaches. And I think it is an absolute no-brainer that even if they were doing barely anything to this ride, same layout, same launch system, same ride systems, everything, the bare minimum they're going to do is replace those trains. However, I don't think they're going to do the bare minimum, and I'm going to give you my theory right now. Dreamworld recently worked with Intamin on King Claw, and I heard rumors at the time that Dreamworld potentially got themselves a 2 for cheaper deal by ordering 2 rides from Intamin at once. This is something that Intamin have been known to do. Certain other ride manufacturers do it as well. If you essentially book in multiple projects with them, they'll give you a better price. So that's been rumored pretty much since King Claw was confirmed. So it would not shock me if Intamin's rumored second ride for Dreamworld was a Motocoaster refurbishment, reimagining, replacement, whatever. Which leads me to believe that Intamin are going to be working on the Motocoaster and that we're going to see a Motocoaster reimagined. What I think is going to happen though is that they're going to completely reimagine it. We know that we don't know, but it seems to be heavily implied that they're repurposing the station. If it were to be perhaps the same ride model, another Intamin family launch coaster, that would make a whole lot of sense. Theoretically, all of that ride hardware, all of the new ride systems, any potential new track is probably going to fit quite neatly into the same envelope. It's probably going to fit that station quite well. And honestly, Motocoaster has a pretty decent queue facility. It could do with a bit more theming, but overall it's pretty well set up, and with some minor adjustments, it could definitely suit a bigger and better ride. I don't think that Dreamworld will settle for a reimagining of Motocoaster that is so-so. So much of what they've done lately has been really excellent, with a lot of attention to detail. They really haven't settled for that'll do. I think King Claw's a perfect example. They definitely could have just shipped that ride in. You know, the Claw itself was pretty well unthemed. A few like stylistic choices, but not really themed. They didn't have any reason to go out there and do what they did with the theming in the area around King Claw, but they did, because that's the standards they're setting for themselves now. So I think if Motocoaster is getting reimagined, they're definitely not just going to settle for a lick of paint, a retheme, some new trains, call it a day, get it back up and running. I'm predicting an extended layout. I am predicting perhaps a second launch being added to probably double the length of the layout. I'm predicting interaction with the Mississippi River. I'm predicting potentially interaction with the island in the middle of the Mississippi River. I am predicting that certain parts of Motocoaster's layout will probably remain, maybe get retracked just to deal with, you know, the wear and tear of 20 years of operation. But otherwise, I'm thinking that they're going to pull out some parts and kind of repurpose it, reimagine it, create a longer, better layout, really. So to wrap up my thoughts, I'd say at this stage, based on what we've seen, based on the Easter egg in the reel, based on the lack of demolition work so far, a new ride or a complete demolition for a completely different attraction, or even potentially no attraction, seems unlikely at this stage. I would say whatever's happening, it seems likely that it will involve Motocoaster's existing hardware in some way. I would predict that this new attraction is probably going to be Rivertown themed. I would say it would make sense that they are going to expand upon Rivertown, considering the placement of the ride's entrance. It would make sense to incorporate it into a larger phase 2 of Rivertown. All I hope at this stage is that if I'm right and the ride is staying in some capacity, the hardware is staying and they're reimagining it in some way, Dreamworld doesn't settle for a minor improvement. In my books, Motocoaster was awful, which means a minor improvement, you know, fixing some of those issues, might make it an okay ride, but not a good one. I still think the layout's mundane. I still think it's way too high off the ground. There's a bunch of other problems other than just the obvious that I think really hampered Motocoaster in my opinion, and I would love to see them put some real effort into reimagining it into not just an okay ride, but a good one or even a great one. Let me know down in the comments what you think is happening to Motocoaster, but my prediction is a fully reimagined, intimate family launch coaster with a second launch, extended layout, theming, the works. I think we're seeing a real expansion on the Motocoaster, and I'm hopeful that it actually could become a much, much, much better ride for it. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree or what your theories are. I'd love to hear them. While I'm here, I want to give a big thank you to all of my channel members, the Keith Monorail Army. You guys are a fantastic support, and I really appreciate all of your support. If you'd like to become a member, click the join button down below. It's cheap as chips. You get 48 hours access to every video and so many perks as well. A big thank you for watching this slightly impromptu video. I had plenty of people asking my thoughts and my opinions on what was going to happen on Motocoaster, so I felt like I had some things to say, and I thought I'd throw something together for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video. Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.